In this video, we'll focus on two important things you need to include in your Task 1 answer. A sentence to introduce the topic of the visual and an overview. That is, a sentence or two sentences that summarise the main trend or trends shown in the visual. First of all, let's focus on how to begin your answer. Let's take a look at an example Task 1 question. To begin your answer, you need to write one or two sentences that introduce the general topic of the visual and explain the type of information that it shows. Let's now look at a sample introduction sentence written by a candidate. In this case, the candidate has copied the description word for word, but unfortunately, you can't do this. In fact, the examiner will ignore any sentences that are copied directly from the question, and these words will not be counted as part of your 150-word answer. Therefore, to introduce the general topic of the visual and explain the type of information that it shows, you need to paraphrase the description given in the question. So, let's take a look at a good example of paraphrase. Here, by paraphrasing, the candidate has shown the examiner that they have understood the information correctly and that they have some range in terms of vocabulary and grammar. Let's practice paraphrasing. Take a look at the following example. In order to write an introductory sentence, we need to paraphrase the sentence shown. Think about ways that you could paraphrase this sentence. Instead of the word chart, you could use graph. Instead of shows, you could use illustrates, gives an overview of, or gives information about. Instead of proportions, you could use percentages. And finally, instead of the word annually, you could use in 1 year. So, by paraphrasing a few words and phrases, we have avoided copying the question and also demonstrated a range of vocabulary to the examiner. Now, let's focus on how to write an overview. So what do I mean by overview? An overview is usually one or two sentences. It describes the main trend or trends contained within the visual. You either put your overview at the beginning, after the introductory sentence, or at the end. It's very important to include an overview, so it may be better to include it at the beginning of your answer, just in case you're starting to run out of time. Let's look at an example. As you can see, the graph shows global energy consumption since 1970 by generating method. When you are analysing the graph before you start writing, it is very important to identify the main trend or trends to include in your overview. So in this case, you can see that the use of petroleum and coal fell slightly over the period. On the other hand, there were slight increases in the use of natural gas and nuclear energy. So, our overview could be something like this. Now, if we added an introductory sentence, the beginning of the answer would be like this. As you can see, the beginning of this sample answer begins with an introductory sentence to introduce the topic of the graph, followed by a clear overview. Now you'll have the chance to practice writing introductory sentences and writing overview sentences, then combining the two to create the first paragraphs for a number of Task 1 answers.